Mr. Ganji, thank you so much for your time and for joining our program tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you are FAO Deputy Regional Representative for Europe and Central Asia. Therefore, I guess we can start with a question about the past experience of the organization. Within the last 80 years, the FAO achieved significant results in the global food security. So what do you consider to be the most impactful and transformative achievement of the organization?
Wow, 80 years indeed. This year we mark our 80th anniversary. FAO started just after the Second World War with a world that has been devastated with war, hunger, famine, which we don't recognize today. And that's when FAO's work started. It started by lobbying for food production, increasing the food production, and that was its relevance at the time. Collecting information and data about where the food is and where the need is, which was the nucleus of the FAO stat, which is with us until today. Later on, we started seeing food commodities as part of the markets and trade markets. Later on, we started seeing FAO intervention, or actually looking at the food price index and looking at the prices and how they go, and really giving early warning to countries about particular commodities and how their prices are going. FAO convoked all the countries in the beginning of the year 2000 with regard to the Food Summit. The Food Summit gathered all countries and alerted them of how the investments in agriculture has been lagging and how this would cause food crisis, which indeed we averted to an extent because of FAO's work and convoking the countries. We started looking at food safety and Codex Alimentaris on the code, working with WHO on what foods should be consumed and what percentages of different elements should be in the food or not. That was FAO. We started looking at food safety. And again, another intervention of FAO on food safety and the laboratories. We started seeing transboundary diseases for our livestock. And foot and mouth disease, avian influenza, all these have got the footprints of FAO's work with the countries in trying to mitigate its effect, both on the livelihoods of the farmers, but also on the lives. Some of these were transferable to human beings. So FAO's relevance has been time and time demonstrated, despite of the difference in environment that we started in. We started after the World War. We survived basically with more relevance during the Cold War and during the peacetime, during the conflicts, regional or global conflicts, and we continue on to do so.
That means the organization is eager to adapt to the new challenges, to adapt to the new reality, because today's in 21st century, the situation is still different in different parts of the world. When I speak about the food security, scarcity, the situation in Europe and in African countries are totally different. There is also division between the states who are willing to work closely with international organizations or those who prefer to have a private approach to the domestic issues. Therefore, how FAO is adapting to the new realities?
I think the current reality, as you rightly said, that there are some countries where FAO's intervention is of different nature than others. Today, when we're intervening in some countries in Africa, where basically they have famine because of natural or man-made disasters. And I just remind you that, for instance, FAO, it was an FAO initiative to create the World Food Program in the 1960s, which basically developed from there on to become an independent organization, which addresses the issues of emergencies and famines. But throughout the time, and because of the experiences, very few countries now opt to deal with the situation alone. Climate change is everywhere. and the effects of climate change is very evident everywhere. Conflicts that happen in one part of the world affect all corners of the world. It's not unusual to see, for instance, the conflict that's happening in Eastern Europe, affecting countries in South Asia and in the Middle East. So the interconnectivity of all the countries, because of production and reliance on food supplies and food productions, make FAO's forum as an international and a global forum very relevant and continue on to be relevant for the world.
But I guess you will agree with me that there is one country which is willing to have more, let's say, personal approach to the global issues, the United States of America. Since the time Donald Trump took its presidency, it's already withdrawn from some international institutions. So does FAO feel any changes in its work with a new American approach to this?
FAO has been working with different administrations in different countries and adapting to the country's needs and approaches to work, and will continue on to do so.
We have to also speak about the situation in the South Caucasus. Azerbaijan is a reliable partner of the organization and trying to be involved as in the regional and the global issues at the same time. Therefore, how do you evaluate this bilateral cooperation, and where do you see the perspectives for the future?
Climate change has affected all of us, all countries, Caucasus and beyond. When we look at climate change, when we look at biodiversity, when we look at land degradation, when we look at water scarcity and agriculture inputs, all these elements have affected Azerbaijan, has affected the Caucasus, and looking at them and analyzing with the country on board on how to mitigate this effect, how to reverse some of the damages that have happened, is something that we have been really getting better and better in. And our work in Azerbaijan, our continued work in Azerbaijan, our partnership with Azerbaijan is just basically very relevant and very obvious to any onlooker on how FAO is looking at the specificity of the country. We're looking at issues, for instance, of land reforms because of a particular heritage of land ownership and so forth in some countries, and we're looking at the experiences in countries like North Macedonia, and we're bringing it to see how could it be adapted in countries like Azerbaijan. So the Caucasus are not alone. They are part of entire global, regional sort of elements of climate change that's affecting everyone. How it's affecting each country, each region, is something that we work with that region on and see how we can mitigate their effects. We're looking at climate-smart agriculture here in Azerbaijan. We're looking at water scarcity elements in some of the semi-arid countries and lands. So FAO has been continuously, as you said, adapting, and now we have a strategic framework that looks at how to make things better. Better production, better nutrition. Nutrition is something that we are, particularly in this region, looking at, because yes, indeed, lots of the countries have scored a better score on the food security element, but on the nutrition, we have issues to be worked on. We have stunts, we have child nutrition elements that we need to work on. So better nutrition is becoming more and more relevant for our region. Better environment. We have been depleting the environmental resources, our plant resources, for years now, or decades actually. So how can we maximize our input without minimizing its effect on our planet and on the environment? And the better life. That's what basically we're all looking at. But all this within an inclusive approach, leaving no one behind, is something that we underline time and time again. In every project, in every program we work in every country, leaving no one behind. Youth, women, farmers, consumers, everyone has got to be. And for that, you need to have an inclusive approach in order for you to have sustainable food systems that respond to the changing elements in the environment.
I may ask another question about the political sensitivity in some parts of the world. The South Caucasus itself is a region with quite a sensitive political history, post-conflict reality developments, and therefore, so how does FAO is promoting its principle of work in the political sensitive regions like the South Caucasus?
I've worked in several regions with FAO, and I don't know of any region that does not have some political sensitivities. But that is the beauty of FAO, where you bring countries together, sitting in a forum to look at thematic challenges and set aside political differences and geopolitical rivalry and differences, and look at the thematic issues that is facing everyone, the challenge that is facing everyone. And that's how we've been working. We've had our regional conference, for instance, brings countries, 54 countries, from most eastern part of Europe and Central Asia to the most western part of Europe, together, despite of conflicts that you're talking about. Sometimes some of them are, between countries or regional, and some of them are even on the global front. But they sit together and they talk about the issues and challenges that are facing in agriculture, in food systems. And that's the beauty of basically a forum like FAO.
Well, indeed, that's very interesting. And one more question, finally, about the future perspectives. I guess we'll not have enough time to describe the future perspective of the FAO, but probably you can make concrete statements and precise expectations from the near future.
Better serving the country's needs and the changing environment. That's what FAO is going to be about, and will be and will continue on to be about.
Well, thank you so much, and we wish you good luck in your future work.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.